I think the Minnesota Vikings are the one team in the NFL that have gotten no credit all season. It's really blown my mind because they're 14-2. They have really dominated this entire season. They have this incredible story of the rookie quarterback, first round pick getting injured, and a bridge quarterback in Sam Darnold really having an MVP type season, and Kevin O'Connell's going to win the Coach of the Year. So I just don't think this team has really gotten any credit from the national media, any big-time fans in the NFL, and I'm here to give them their credit and their love that they deserve because this Minnesota team has had an unbelievable year. Like I mentioned, 14 wins, only 2 losses. They're going to play a monumental game on Sunday Night Football for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. Yes, you heard me right. The number 1 overall seed in the NFC, a Minnesota Vikings team that was predicted to be 3rd in the division. And it's a brutal one. The Lions have been unbelievable this year as well. Like I mentioned, 14 wins. They're going to be playing them for the division. The Packers have also been no slouch of a team as well, but Minnesota was really beating the brakes off of them this past weekend before they had this kind of late comeback, but they're 2-0 against Green Bay. They have that big time win over San Francisco, and they were pretty healthy earlier in the year. They beat Atlanta. Like, they have good wins on this schedule. So I just don't think this Minnesota team has gotten enough credit for what they're doing. And first of all, I want to start on the offensive end. Like I mentioned, we all know the story of Minnesota letting go of Kirk Cousins, them deciding to let him hit free agency. He's signing with Atlanta. Now we know that he didn't have this kind of turnaround season like we all thought he would in Atlanta. Now it's Michael Penix's turn, but they let him go. The Kirk Cousins era had officially ended, and it was time for the J.J. McCarthy era with Kevin O'Connell, one of the best offensive minds in the game. And they also signed Sam Darnold to a kind of prove-it deal. And J.J. McCarthy would play really well in the preseason, as a matter of fact, and then he would get injured. He would tear a ligament in his knee, and he would be out for the entirety of this year. So that meant it was Sam Darnold's team, and you kind of could tell that he had that weight lifted on his shoulder, that it was not like, okay, Sam, once you start kind of playing bad, once you start getting a little choppy, we're going to let J.J. McCarthy take over. Once he learns the ropes, once he becomes a consummate professional, we're going to let him take over the ropes. And I really feel like that took a big weight off of Sam Darnold's shoulders, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's been playing at such a high level. And this offense has really been tremendous with Darnold at the helm. We see Justin Jefferson having an amazing year, Jordan Addison also having just a tremendous year as well. This offense is top 10 in the NFL. Aaron Jones is really playing unbelievable, and I really just think that Sam Darnold has done a tremendous job of being the maestro of this team. 4,000 passing yards, 68% completion percentage, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks, leading a top 10 offense in the NFL. We see Justin Jefferson with almost 1,500 receiving yards with still a game to go and 100 receptions. Jordan Addison, I think he's really been one of the most underrated receivers in all of football. I think he has emerged as probably the second best number 2 receiver in all of the NFL, almost 1,000 yards receiving as well. He's taken just such tremendous strides from year 1 to year 2, and we all know the type of threat that TJ Hawkinson is at the tight end position. And then Aaron Jones, 1,000-yard rusher as well. So I just think this Minnesota offense can really come at you from a few different ways. They can run the ball at an effective rate. They also can throw it all over the yard in the play action game, in the drop back game, whatever you want with Sam Darnold. He can do it all. And of course, we can't forget about this defense. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in all of football. He's going to be a head coach next year without a doubt. I have no doubts about it. And this defense, only allowing the 4th fewest points per game at just 18.8 points per game. This Minnesota team has been unbelievable. They're also stopping the run at such a high level, the 2nd fewest rushing yards per game. And I want to ask you something right now. If you are a casual fan, how many players can you name on the Minnesota defense? Serious question. How many names can you name on that Minnesota defense that aren't superstars? Okay, I would say you could probably get 2 or 3 without cheating. Probably Stephon Gilmore and Harrison Smith. This team, at the end of the day, doesn't have a bunch of superstar players, but they have a defense that can all come together as a collective unit and be one of the best in the NFL. And I think that's what's so impressive about this team. And right now, Minnesota has just been playing such a high level of football. And I really think that goes to show the culture that Kevin O'Connell has instilled in really his short tenure as the Minnesota Vikings head coach, because I believe this team is good enough to go out there and win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I said it. I think this Minnesota team is good enough to win the Super Bowl. I think this offense is top 10 in the NFL. They have weapons really everywhere you look. This defense is unbelievable. It's a top 10 unit in the league, borderline top 5 in my opinion, if you're really breaking it down. And they've been hanging in there with some of the toughest competition in the NFL, and they're now going to have a chance on Sunday Night Football to grab the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, which seems crazy. It seems crazy for the Minnesota Vikings to be considered for the number 1 overall seed, considering they burned their first round draft pick on J.J. McCarthy, and Sam Darnold has had this complete revitalization where he's probably going to command anywhere from 150 to 200 million in free agency next year. That just goes to show you what Kevin O'Connell can truly do as a head coach. But right now, I look at this Minnesota team. They faced adversity over the past 2 weeks, going on the road, beating Seattle, sweeping the season series against Green Bay. They had that close loss against Detroit. They had that close loss against Los Angeles as well on a short week on the road. So I think right now this Minnesota team is good enough to go out there and beat Detroit. I think they're going to beat Detroit for the number 1 overall seed. And even if they don't, I don't mind them going on the road and facing a Buccaneers team that I think can be exposed on the defensive side of the ball. I think if Minnesota was at home, could realistically beat any team in the NFC, and I think it would be a coin flip. They'd probably be the underdogs against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is just so great this year, but I really think that this Vikings team, with the defensive identity that they've created, with this really stop the run, gritty football team that's going to pressure you, that's going to put guys at the line of scrimmage, might drop them, might send them at you. Brian Flores is aggressive. He's going to heat you up if you're a young quarterback. And that's just what we've seen from this Minnesota team, and we know how great they are offensively. I really trust Kevin O'Connell to get any of you guys that might be sitting on your couch right now listening to this at home open. Like, he's that great of a offensive mastermind, and I think that's just what we have to really acknowledge when we're looking at this Minnesota team. So I think they're absolutely contenders in the NFC. A lot of people were calling them overrated when I made a shorter video on them. A lot of people were calling them overrated, one of the most overrated teams in the league. And I'm like, how can you say that about a team that is 14-2? They're resilient. They can win close games. They can win games where they're facing a deficit. They can realistically do it all. They have a quarterback that's confident. They have a head coach that, most importantly, believes in his quarterback. And right now, they have the playmakers on the outside, and they have this smash mouth defense that is willing to keep them in every single ball game. So I just cannot ignore this Minnesota team, and I think they've got to be considered as realistic Super Bowl contenders. I'm Caden Kubler, and thanks for watching.